we're lowering the loan amount, but the payment of the loan isn't changing. And so you're going to be growing equity at a faster pace.
Correct.
And so they're going to realize much more than the 5-6% on their equity.
That's just cash flow.
That's just cash flow. They're easily in the double digits on their original investment, but they have 100% of their investment in their pocket, and they can reinvest that and get another 12, 15, 20% return. So they're double dipping. And now if you add the 10, 12, 15% they're going to be making on this deal, and if they reinvest that at another 12, 15%, they're at over 30% on that same money. That's why it's such a win for the investors.
Fantastic.
Hey, what's up, and welcome back to How to Invest in Commercial Real Estate. And today's a cool episode because we are talking about a deal that we bought not too long ago at the beginning of the year. And we dove deep into that deal on the podcast. It's called Plaza West. And today we have a cool surprise.
Did we just buy it at the beginning of this year?
Dude, we bought it like January 11th. Isn't that nuts?
That is nuts.
So
here we are, August. Well, it's actually September 1st. Okay.
September 1st. And we are closing on the sale of 3 Out-Parcels that was included in that shopping center.
Today, closing today.
If you don't remember, we'll throw up a picture of Plaza West. It's a massive L-shaped shopping center. It's anchored by Restore, which is owned by Habitat for Humanity.
Dollar General, too.
Dollar General as well. It's probably 123,000 square feet, and it's got 3 Out-Parcels in front of it. And those 3 Out-Parcels are a taco shop, a Lone Max, and a Wendy's, right? And we bought it. This isn't a deal that, we brag about too often because it's not a sexy deal. And we talk about that.
It's an older deal. Some of the exterior has been renovated. Some of it hasn't been. It's in an okay part of Wichita. It's pretty good frontage and decent traffic counts, but maybe workforce housing or just middle income.
Yeah, and when we were looking at it, we kind of had it in the back of our head of I like buying things with either pad sites on it, that you can sell off or develop yourself, or existing pad sites like a Wendy's, like a taco shop, like a Lone Max, because those are typically are way more expensive. They trade at a lower cap rate. People are willing to make less money on those because of the inherent single tenant risk. The single tenant is typically paying the property taxes directly. A lot of the times they have bigger insurance policies, so they'll insure it themselves. They'll take care of the CAM themselves. So for an owner who doesn't want to manage it, doesn't want to mess with it, wants the tenants to kind of take care of the property themselves, pad sites are perfect.
A little easier for them, right?
A lot easier.
Well, they're perfect for 1031 exchanges where, smaller investors have sold a property, don't want to pay the taxes, but also want to put their money in something that's easy, no maintenance, no hassle, no real management. And so, yeah, they traded a slightly lower cap than the entire shopping center just because of the perceived risk.
You think we sold this one to someone doing a 1031?
I was about to say that. It's funny you brought that up because the buyer of this bought it in a 1031 exchange. And a 1031 exchange, let's just break that down again. It's when you sell a property and you say, I don't want to pay the tax right now. This is an IRS not a loophole, but this is an IRS rule. And they allow you to put that money in an intermediary, like a title company, an attorney, whatever. And then as long as you don't touch the money and that money buys real property, like, similar real property, then you defer the tax until you sell that next property. Right.
And maybe indefinitely.
Indefinitely, because if you die,
you can do it again.
Your heirs, right? They inherit the property at fair
step up in value.
Exactly, which is mind blowing,
it's
right?
Crazy.
They don't have to pay your depreciation, and typically when you sell a property, you're paying depreciation, recapture, and long term capital gains, and they don't pay any of that. Anyway, 1031 exchange was the buyer, but we want to get into it because we bought this shopping center for a pretty high cap rate. I think it was an 8.5 cap, wasn't it?
Yeah, 8.5, 8.7, maybe 8.75. I can't remember.
I think it was 8.5 before we got a $300,000 retrade.
Like a $7.5 million.
$7.5 million deal. We bought 122,000 feet and we sold 11,000 feet. The 3 pad sites are 11,000 feet. And we sold that for almost $3.6 million.
So a tenth of the square footage for half
50% of the value.
50% of the value, yeah.
Yep.
That's incredible. And so the cap rate, I believe, on the 3 pad sites was 5 3/4.
5.9, 5.85. It was below 6 for sure. So we made almost 3 points on that income, and we didn't even power wash the buildings. We literally did nothing. We renewed the loan max lease. I'm going to give us a little credit. We called them and said, hey, I'll give you a free month if you renew for 5 years. And they were like, sure, of course.
So what kind of terms on the lease attracted these buyers? What would it take for someone to come in and buy those three?
So that's a great question. It was a combination of a bunch of different things. And like I said in the beginning, these aren't the sexiest asset you've ever seen. It looks a little rough. The Wendy's was old. The Loan Max is literally, not literally falling apart. It looks like it's falling apart. And the taco shop, it looks like your local little, Del Taco, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'll break them down on each one. The Loan Max was the weakest of the three. It looked the roughest. You didn't have any sales. You didn't have any massive franchisor. We had a lease term. Right. So we had 2.5 years remaining. I got another 5 years. So there's 7.5 years worth of lease term there. The next one was the taco shop.
That's the very hard corner.
The very hard corner, the hardest corner in Wichita.
Maybe not, but it was on the very corner. The other ones are kind of down from the corner.
Yeah, a little bit of an inside joke there. But this is the hard corner. And again, when you go out and you buy a property, the first question you're asking yourself is, what reasons do I have to believe that this tenant is not only going to succeed, but let's just start with honor their lease. Like, how do I know this tenant is successful enough or sells enough tacos to pay me? Well, in that lease, we have sales reports. So every year they submit a yearly sales reports that say, hey, here's how much we did and here's when we did it. So we were able to get those sales reports. This taco shop's doing $2.2 million a year in sales, and their rent is nothing, absolutely nothing. They pay like 4.5% percentage rent.
Yeah, I would say on all three of these tenants, what made it attractive was that the rents were relatively low for single tenant net lease out parcels.
For sure, that also helps.
And then when we were there, the line around the taco shop was, both times we've been there, I don't know if we've been more than twice, but they had plenty of traffic. It looked like they were doing well. The Wendy's was doing well. The Wendy's had brand new churches.
So when we bought
right next to Wendy's,
when we bought the center, the seller carved out that last out parcel and sold it to Church's Chicken. So that is actively under construction right now.
Brand new. And so it was only a matter of time before Wendy's was going to put a brand new facade on this facility.
Correct. And let's get into that story, right? I get an email one day, and it's an article from my property manager in the Wichita Eagle, the local Wichita paper. And he said, hey, did you know Cotty Foods, the guy who operates the Wendy's, did you know Wendy's is tearing down the location and building a new one? And I wish I would have known, right? Because it would have made me look smart. But we had no clue. We had no clue the Wendy's was going to tear down their location and build a brand new one. So again, as an investor, who cares about the lease term Wendy's has? Literally, who cares?
Yeah, if they're building a new building.
They're building a brand new building.
But we didn't even find that out until we'd already started negotiations with the buyer, right?
No, it was right before.
Right before?
Right before.
And when you say build new, they just totally renovate. It's not a whole new building.
They said they are going to scrape it down to the earth.
Interesting.
It's a complete demo.
Whole new building.
It's a 50-year-old building. And I think they have a little bit of a different floor plan footprint now than they used to.
So let's get into the numbers a little bit more. We sell these for $3.6 million. We only paid $7.5 million for the entire center.
We got a great loan. We bought the center. I think it was only 80%, which is still pretty high leverage, but
we got a low fixed interest rate.
We did.
And a great thing about the lender is they allowed us to not take all of the proceeds and pay down the loan. They were willing to take just $1.5 million from the out-parcel sale. We pay down the loan balance, and the rest we can keep in cash, which we're going to use to distribute.
Yeah, and let's talk about that a little bit, because we talked about that with the lender while we were going through the process of the acquisition. So it wasn't a surprise. And so it was kind of pre-negotiated. And I would highly encourage you, if you have any thought that you are going to segment out a piece of property that you are encumbering with a loan, to tell the lender that you maybe plan to do that. Hey, I would love to sell this piece. What happens if I sell that? Who gets the money? Because a lot of the times the lender, or if that's not specifically written in your loan docs, the lender will say, sweet, $3.6 million equity pay down. Thanks, man. Yeah. And they go to like 60% LTV.
Well, not 60 on this deal. We borrowed, I think, originally 6 or 6.25. And so if we pay that down with $3.5 million, it goes all the way down to 30, 40% LTV.
Right. So it would have been a great deal for the bank, but this is a bank we've worked with numerous times. We've done 3, 4, 5 deals with them. I know Criterion's maxed them out. I don't know about Precision. I know Precision's done a deal with them though, because we got their contact info from them, which is another reason to stay in communication with anybody buying commercial real estate that you know. I don't know how many times I call somebody or Joel or anybody else buying commercial real estate. Hey, you have a lender for me. I have this deal. And everyone's got somebody who's hungry to make a loan, or this guy was just telling me he was looking for new multifamily development or whatever. Exactly. So anyway, talk to the lender about the equity pay down. We talked to them about it and we worked up this model and they said, what do you need? I said, well, I definitely don't need the whole thing. An ultimate home run for us is we raised $1,850,000 to buy this property. If we could get that money out, we'd be ecstatic. You can have the rest. And they said, okay, let's reappraise it. And if it appraises, sounds like a win-win scenario, which we talked about on our previous podcast, right? They need less risk because the NOI is going down. So they need a little bit, but at the same time, we need a little bit. And even if we couldn't get 100% of the equity sent back out to our investors, even 80, 90% of it would be amazing. And then when you talk about a sponsor of the deal, so how does this benefit somebody with a preferred return situation, both the investor and the sponsor?
Well, for us, if we can get the investor 100% of their money back, the pref goes away, and then it's just a straight split of cash flow. So we're incentivized as sponsors to get the money back to the investor.
Correct.
Now, what you would say, what is the benefit to the investor? Well, because their 8 pref is going away, so they're going to get a slightly lower return on the sale. But the thing is, whenever they get 100% of their money back without having to relinquish their ownership, they keep distributions from the property.
Yep.
And they've got no risk. We've eliminated their risk, and they have 100% of their capital to go reinvest on another deal. They're still earning on the deal that they invested with.
So that's a great question. Or great statement, I guess I would say. The investors will pay out 100% of their equity and they'll still get about 5% on their original investment in perpetuity because we're keeping the property. It's going to continue to appreciate.
It's way more than that because we're lowering the loan amount, but the payment of the loan isn't changing. And so you're going to be growing equity at a faster pace.
Correct.
And so they're going to realize much more than the 5-6% on their equity.
That's just cash flow.
That's just cash flow. They're easily in the double digits on their original investment, but they have 100% of their investment in their pocket and they can reinvest that and get another 12, 15, 20% return. So they're double dipping. And now if you add the 10, 12, 15% they're going to be making on this deal, and if they reinvest that at another 12, 15%, they're at over 30% on that same money. That's why it's such a win for the investors.
Fantastic.
So we like to call this equity farming, right? You plant your equity in this nice, gorgeous property where you think it has the potential to grow. And then we harvested a big piece of that plant out. And we're going to shove it in another deal, right? We took the equity out of the original deal. We're going to put it in the next deal, but we didn't sell the first deal. And that's so important. That's so important. Everyone thinks when they get into commercial real estate, oh, the exit is when we sell the property. I'll get my money back when we sell the property. Guys, the ultimate home run in commercial real estate is keeping the property, collecting the property, letting it continue to appreciate, continuing to depreciate it on your taxes, continue to pay down the mortgage. It still pays you cash flow, and you take the money you bought that shopping center with and buy another shopping center. Yep. And you do that until you have tons.
And as a sponsor, we still maintain some amount of risk, but the investors have zero risk. Because the only thing they risked in the first place was their initial equity.
Correct.
That's the only thing they risked. And so if you give them 100% of that back, now it's just cash flow with no risk. It's an infinite return on non-invested cash.
Yeah, and we personally guaranteed the mortgage. So I would make a point to say that our risk actually went down because we paid down that personally guaranteed liability by $1.5 million.
Yeah.
Right. And we have less risk because we returned all of our investor equity. Every time we raise a dollar, that's a risk against us that we have to give back, and we have to make sure we give back. But I want to make sure we all understand the power of this. So I did the IRR summary on this investment for this year. We bought it January 11th. We're selling a big chunk of it in September. We've already done 2 full distributions. The investor got 12% cash on cash for the first quarter, even though we didn't own it the first quarter. The second quarter, they'll most likely get that for the third quarter and get all of their money back. And they will still get a fourth quarter distribution. The IRR for this year on the investor that invested in Plaza West is over 35%.
Wow.
this year. And they're going to take that money and shove it in another deal. I guarantee it.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So Braden, step back just real quickly, because we didn't have people just approach us and say, hey, we want to buy these Out-Parcels.
We didn't.
Tell the listeners kind of what steps we took to get these things sold.
Yeah, that's a great question, because we went to multiple different brokers to get brokers' opinions of value. They're called a BOV, brokers' opinions of value. And what that is just like if you were selling a house, you'd call 3 realtors and say, hey, what's my house worth, right? And you'll kind of take the cumulative average of those and then decide on your own number. It's the exact same thing with listing commercial property. You go to brokers who you think can sell your asset. We went to several. We went to a massive group locally in Tulsa. You know, they sell a lot in this region. They're based in this region. And then we went to another guy in Southern California. And the guy in Southern California, and it's really kind of fascinates me. The guy in Southern California has a list of buyers that buy low cap rate Southern California triple net deals. The guy in the middle of the country has a list of buyers that buy properties in the middle of the country for similar to what we buy properties for. So I want to go to the guy that's got the list of people who overpay, maybe not overpay, like it's market, right? Mm-hmm. He didn't do this under duress. Yeah, they didn't do this under duress. It could easily be a woman. So you want to get those brokers' opinions of value. We saw the guy from Southern California. His name's Jeff Lefko. He's with Hanley. You should use him if you have a property to sell. He would give you an amazing BOV. And we got that, and it was like, wow, if you can sell it for that, I would sell in a heartbeat. He said, well, I think I can. Yeah. What we did is we, arm wrestled a little bit over commission. I said, hey, I'll pay you, I think it was 3% base. I'll pay you 3% base, but anything you get over this number, I'll give you like 15% of, 10, 12% of. I don't know the exact number, but it was triple or 4 times as much, because my cap was, well, I don't want to say it, but my cap was lower than what we sold the property for. So it incentivized him even more to deliver on his broker's opinions of value, because I didn't want him to just quote me a high number like, yeah, you should be able to sell this for $3.6 million. And then I walk away with like 2.8 or $3 million. That would have been a bad case scenario. And he would have lost a little bit of, something. Yeah. But when we tiered his commission in a way that incentivized him to give me a higher purchase price, he went out and got it. And we got several offers, and you're picking through them, which one's got the longest amount of due diligence time. Like this guy wants 45 days for free. He's offering no earnest money. He's the lowest price. Throw that one away. Okay, these two are pretty close. Let's do a best and final, see if anybody will come up. I think one of the two sweetened their terms a little bit, and we locked it up and went with them. It was a group out of Texas.
Well, so just good for new investors when they're looking at deals. Be looking for opportunities. How do you grow the income? How do you reduce expenses? But how do you carve off potential out-parcels to farm out your equity and reinvest it and keep the main asset?
It's literally the definition of arbitrage. We bought something in Wichita. We're from Tulsa, and we sold it to somebody in a different part of the country who values it differently than we do. I wouldn't have bought these deals at a 6 cap. I'll never buy 6 cap single tenant retail deals. That's not my cup of tea, right? But if we can buy an 8.5 cap deal that's got that upside, I really wouldn't have cared if we didn't sell them. We had no intention of selling them. The investors are going to be
would have been fine with us.
Ecstatic getting their money back, because these guys and girls were planning on locking up their money for 3, 5, 7, 10 years until we could add enough value to the center to refinance out this equity. But instead, we just sold, less than 10% of the square footage, paid down the note, and gave them all of their equity back. That is the power of a home run in commercial real estate.
Yeah, for sure.
We need to appreciate that.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Anyway, if you like that deal, if you say, hey, I want 35% returns, Braden, if you say, hey, I want to invest in a deal and get my money back 9 months later, the first and only step is to go to the websites, howtoinvestinCRE.tv, precisionequity.com, the CriterionFund.com. Join our investor list. You'll get an email when we launch a deal. And if it seems interesting, if you like us, if you like our deals, if you like the way it sounds, send us a flyer, right? Put the minimum investment in one deal and watch it. Read some reports, get some cash flow. The next deal, you may be more excited, you may be less excited, who knows, but you'll be involved and you'll be learning, right? Yep. Anyway, smash the like button, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and catch us next time on How to Invest in CRE.